What if I told you the one of the world's biggest travel companies was born during one of the most financial crisis in history, and a company that started because two broke roommates could not pay rent, and eventually became a brand worth $131 billion. This is the unbelievable story of Airbnb. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and I'm here with another case study of Airbnb, and we will discuss how a company just started to broke roommates could not pay rent, and now eventually became a brand over $131 billion. Let's get started. So a company rejected by investors and also mocked by people and almost did multiple times, and but instead of collapsing during recession, they used the crisis an opportunity. So this is not a startup story, it's a mastermind and master class in survival for marketing psychology and business strategy. So let's get started. In year 2007, the world was entering a financial crisis. The people were losing jobs and all, and rent was also becoming very expensive. And in San Francisco, two roommates were struggling badly, and their names one Brian Chesky and Joey Gabia. So they could not afford their apartment rent. At the at that same time, a biggest that time they had they had an idea that in their mind comes an idea, hotels are also fully booked. So they had a crazy idea, like, what if people paid to sleep in their apartments, you know? And they bought 3 air mattress and created a simple website called Air Bed and Breakfast. So and offered guests a place to stay with breakfast. Surprisingly, you can't believe 3 strangers booked it. The small experience, the small experience was started and it changed everything. Just experiment. They started for a small experiment, and that changed everything. Most business during recession also cutting was cutting cost, and Airbnb saw also something different. And first, travelers wanted cheaper alternative than hotels. Also, second, homeowners desperately needed extra income. Also, if I live in a hometown, like great tourist spots, then I also you know also I want to income some extra income. I want, and so Airbnb connected both sides, and this was genius. Also, the hotels needed billions to build properties. Okay, but Airbnb needed only a website. They owned no hotels, no rooms, no buildings. They could scale globally. This became one of the biggest business advantage in modern startup history. So, so now the question is, कि then he didn't made a $131 billion of business. So, but success is not happen overnight. In fact, almost everyone rejected them, and investors thought strangers staying in each other's homes was dangerous and weird. Sometimes investors also literally laughed at the idea, and Airbnb was rejected the famous investor multiple times, and the founders also were running out of money. At that point, uh, they survived in selling ce- cereal boxes during 2008 US election. Yes, cereal boxes. They created Obama's O's and caps in the sense that this hustle heavily made them around $30,000 just to survive, and most founders would quit also, but they kept growing. Persistence became the superpower. Then Airbnb discovered something important, like people were not trusting because listing because photos also looked terrible, and so the founder personally visited apartment, and took professional photos themselves, and suddenly also booking double, and this changed up everything. The Airbnb realized one thing, कि uh, the trust is the real product. No homes, मतलब no, not homes, not rooms, and not just trust. See, they had nothing, no rooms, no buildings, no uh, homes, no house. So they only focused heavily on verified profiles and reviews, also rating. Reviews very much matter a lot. So secure payments and professional photography, and this makes strangers feel comfortable staying together, and slowly also people started recognize and accepting that ideas. And this is where story becomes so powerful. Ki, why? Because millions of people needed extra money. The home owners started also listing spare rooms, apartments, even couches. So see, if I live in with my husband, so I have two rooms, so I could this kind of side business also. What else are very expensive, and Airbnb was so affordable. This perfect time creating an explosive growth. So that while traditional companies struggled during recession, Airbnb became the most solution and the recession problems. So great companies do not always avoid crisis. So then also it's not key after that also Airbnb did not win and did not made $131. They also they created a system. Airbnb listing could also appear on Craigslist, and this exposed Airbnb millions of people for free also. This is a listing property actually, and no smart distribution, and then country by country some people across the world started using Airbnb. And Airbnb was not selling a cheap rooms anymore, they sold experience. And so instead of staying boring hotels rooms, travelers could now live like locals. A beach house in Bali, so a tree house in Costa Rica, and a castle in Europe, a beach house in Goa. So travel suddenly became emotional also, and it feels so personal. So I mean offered also stories, and people loved it. Then came another disaster, COVID-19. Travel completely stopped. Airbnb lost almost 80% of its business in weeks. The company was seriously was in dangerous. Many of company was in serious danger. That one of them, Airbnb. Many people thought Airbnb gone, but again they adapted. Instead of international tourism, they focused on local travel, work for home stays, and people started looking nearby home for a longer stage, and the remote work became popular. Airbnb quickly adjusted, to new consumer behavior. Once travel recovered, the company also bounced back stronger. So that जो COVID time, that time was for an Airbnb is a disaster time. In 2020 also, Airbnb went probably and investor valued the company at over $100 million, and the startup one during had, you know, um, started just they started just a मतलब two roommates was broke and they made a $131 dollars company. So that's, it's not a joke, man. But because success did not happen overnight. In fact, almost everyone also rejected them. Investors, through also strangers staying in each other's home, was also dangerous. So that is also not a very it's not a so joke. And if the question, now the question also, so how does Airbnb actually make money? Simple. Airbnb charges from both guest also, host also. So the thing is कि Airbnb story teaches some powerful business lessons कि while others saw recession and destruction, Airbnb saw the opportunity. Okay, so and people needed cheaper travel, extra income, and Airbnb solved the both, because that time financial crisis, everyone needed money, and the technology alone does not build companies also. And most people also would quit after repeated rejection, but the founder kept growing, kept growing, kept growing. So sometimes platforms also become more powerful than owners. Airbnb owns almost no properties, but still dominates global hospitality. Today, Airbnb operates in thousands of cities across the world. Millions of people used it every year. But the company started is something incredibly simple. मतलब two broke in roommates, three air mattress, and one desperate idea during recession. So sometimes the biggest companies are born also in the worst time. Air, and that Airbnb proved that perfectly also. What do you think? Comment your thoughts below, and also if you enjoyed this business case study, subscribe for more stories and about $1 billion companies and startup wars and business strategies. Till now, bye bye, good night.